Welcome everyone. Hello, hello. Hi guys, welcome to our first quilt class. Thanks for joining us, Jen. I'm so glad we're doing this. Thank you guys for being here. This is our first session. Have your kit out. I'm excited we're doing this. Let me know if you're having any trouble hearing us at all, and we'll just type in the chat. I see Kelsey here. I see Thelia and Tara. Is Sam there too? Oh, awesome. Hey, Sam. Hey, Ashley and Allie and Heather is here. Welcome. I'll let you take it away.
Okay, so hello everybody. My name is Jen. I talk kind of low. Can everybody hear me pretty good? Just let me know. Good. Okay, awesome. So we have a lot to cover in this hour. So I'm going to move a little bit quick. Just let me know if you need to slow down, need me to slow down. But the first thing I want to do is make sure that everybody has what you need in your kit and let you figure out what each thing is. Did everyone get a piece of paper with the instructions on it? Did you guys get that? Good. Okay, good. So this right here, the square, it's like the square little pieces. This is called a charm pack. Okay. These bigger strips, and everybody's is different. Yours ain't going to look exactly like mine. You have a stack of bigger strips, and this is your border. Okay. The smaller strips, the more narrow strips, are the binding. And then the big piece is the back. And then you should have this fuzzy looking stuff. That's batting. We won't need that for a while. Okay, maybe the next class we'll use that. I'm not sure yet. So you have your sewing kit, and inside the sewing kit, what you have that we're going to be using is your thread, of course. Okay, you got your pins. You'll be using these, or you have 3 clips. I like the clips because they're a little bit less dangerous. So you have both of those that you can use along the way. You have this little pin cushion. Now use this little cut. My little girl calls this a pumpkin. But you have the little pin cushion. Use this because you'll find that you lose your needles a lot. Okay, so when you're done sewing, you'll want to put your needles in there. You have your needles here. This has a top on it that turns, okay, and there's a hole. So you'll need to turn the hole to where you can get a needle out very carefully, okay, and there's a bunch of different kinds of needles in there. The needles that we will use have a very sharp tip. There's some with very blunt tips, and you don't want to use that kind. You'll want the one with the sharp tip. Okay, what else will we use is a seam ripper. Seam ripper, this right here, it's the red thing. It has the lid. It's kind of sharp and pokey. This is if you make a mistake and need to rip your threads out. You might not even use this at all, but you may, just so you know what this is. And of course, your scissors. So the other stuff you may or may not use. We'll see. So to start with, I'm going to show you how to thread a needle. So it doesn't really matter what color thread you choose for this part because we're going to sew these together. The stitches are going to be on the back side and you're not going to be able to see these stitches. So the color doesn't really matter. So choose any color you want for this part. So these little rows of thread, you'll see that one piece of thread is kind of out of line, and that is the one that you can take and kind of pull it so that you can unravel it. Some of them are hard to see, but just find the one that you like and then find the thread that's out of place and unravel it. You're going to get a piece of thread that's about your arm's length. Okay, so I'm rolling it out and it's about the length of my arms. Okay, and I'm going to cut it off. Okay, I'm going to find a needle that has a sharp tip. Okay, and then you're going to take one end of your thread and put it through the hole. And then you're going to pull it all the way to the end so that your tail ends match up. Okay, so now you have two threads. It's one piece of thread folded in half, right? And you have two threads. So I'm going to show you how to put a knot in this thread. So watch very carefully, and hopefully you guys can see. So I have the needle in my right hand, and I'm pulling the thread. Can you see right there? Pulling the thread all the way to the end. Okay, so just the tail ends are here. Okay, so that's hanging over my hand like this. Then I have the needle, and I'm going to put that between my two fingers. The piece of thread that's hanging over the back right here, you're going to pinch your fingers really hard so that the needle don't come out. And you're going to wrap it around 3 times. Okay, then push it down. You're going to pull the needle with your right hand, and you're pinching the other end, pull it all the way to the end, and there is a knot at the very end of it. So that may take a little bit of practice to get that down. So just try and see if you can do it. And I'm going to do it again just from here. So I have the needle in my right hand. I'm pulling it all the way to the end. So it hangs over my hand like that. Put the needle in between my two fingers. Wrap it around 3 times. Pinch it between my fingers and pull it all the way to the end. So that once you get used to that, it becomes really natural, and you're just like this, and you're done, and you have a knot at the end of your thread. Okay, does anybody have any questions about that? If it's too complicated and it's too, you don't feel like doing that, you don't want to do that right now, you can just go to the end of your thread and just tie a knot. Tie it around your fingers, right? And just do a knot. You might want to do two knots, so it's a big enough knot it won't pull through your fabric. So I'm going to put my needle in my pumpkin pin cushion and set it over to the side. Does anybody have any questions about that before we move on? Everybody good? Everybody got it? Kelsey, you have a question?
Yes, I have a question. Just to double check, is our thread like doubled?
Yes.
Like so it is, right?
Yes, there's two.
Okay.
It's one piece of thread, but it's in half. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
So there's two.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. So after you get that, the next thing we're going to do is design our quilt top. So for this, you are going to need either floor space or a table space or a bed, somewhere where you can lay out your quilt top and make sure that it's in a pattern and a design that you like. So the only thing we need for that is our charm packs. So you take your charm packs. You don't need the cardboard. And you'll see that there are duplicates of some of the patterns. And the only thing you really want to pay attention to is, so these two are exactly the same. I don't want them to be side by side because they're the same. I don't want them to be close together. I want them to be kind of spread apart. So that's really the only thing you need to pay attention to while you do that. I'm going to stand up and lay my design out on the table. So when you lay this design out, you're going to do 7 squares. You're going to do 7 squares across horizontally and 6 vertically, 6 up and down. So you're going to have 6 rows of 7 squares. And just lay them out however you like. And the best thing that I've found is to just lay them out the best I can, and then take a step back and look at it from a little bit of a distance. And when you step back and look at it, then you can better tell if there's like 2 colors that are too similar, that are close together. I'm going to try, I'm not sure if this will work with my charm pack or not, but I'm going to try to do light, dark, that kind of pattern. It may work, it may not work, but I'm going to give it a try and see. So one thing that I did not put in your kits are sandwich bags. So if you have sandwich bags, it's not completely necessary, but it is helpful to keep track of all of your squares once you lay them all out, and to keep them organized. So that's completely optional. So another thing to keep in mind, so these are not exactly the same. One is blue, one is white, but they're the same pattern. They're different colors, but the same pattern. So it's kind of tricky keeping them separated too. So just take whatever time you need to really make sure that you're happy with your design.
I love Thelia's hat.
I do too. That's a great hat.
That's so cool.
So if you guys have any questions while we're working, don't hesitate to just turn your mic on and talk to me about what you're doing, what you're thinking about this class. So, and I just want to say I'm so happy to be doing these classes with the hand quilting, because I work in a fabric store 1 day a week, and I get to meet people and see their creations and their quilts, and I love it so much. But one thing that I have discovered since being there is that hardly nobody quilts by hand anymore. So it's becoming one of those dying arts almost, because, you know, using machine is really a lot quicker. So nobody does the hand quilting very often anymore. So I'm just so happy that you guys are here to learn how to do this, so that in the future, maybe you can show somebody else how to do it. So thank you for doing this class, because it makes me really happy knowing that this is going to continue with you guys.
Jen, these fabrics are so cute.
Yeah, I love them. I had a really, really hard time deciding which one I wanted to make.
Me too.
The glitter fabric is my favorite.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, I like the glitter pretty good too. So after you do 7 or 6 rows of 7, I don't think you will have any squares left. And if you're thinking, well, is this working? Does it look right? Remember, just take a step back. Take a step back and look at it. And then when you have a little bit of distance from it and you're not just right over top of it, you can see when there's 2 patterns really close together that just don't work. And sometimes just changing 1 square changes the whole thing and makes it much, much better. Oh no. So I got to the end, right? And I have 3 of the same squares. So now I got to change a couple of them. And that's okay.
Allie, oh, glad you found it, Allie. Allie said she was a square short.
Oh no.
But she discovered it.
Good.
Welcome, Nevaeh. Am I saying your name right? Nevaeh? You can give me a thumbs up.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Welcome, Nevaeh. I'm glad you're here.
Did she just now come in?
Oh, just a couple minutes ago.
Okay. So I've got mine all laid out. And I think I'm okay with the way that it looks. So one thing that you can do, optional, if you have something to take a photo, if you have a phone or a tablet, or you could borrow someone's phone or tablet and take a photo of it. And then what I do is I go into edit the photo, and then I do, so the top one is row 1, and the second one row 2, 3, 4, and so on. So that way I can remember if I am in the middle of sewing and I'm confused about what's going on and I'm wondering if I messed up, then I can go back to that photo and then I'll know. I'll have my answer, right? So I'll give everybody a few minutes to get their quilt lined out or laid out the way that you like them. So the next part is when the sandwich bags come in handy. So if you have extras, you'll need 6 of them, 6 sandwich bags. If not, then you'll just need to keep your rows separate. However way that you want, you could put a rubber band around them, you could tie a string around them, each row to keep them separate. I found that it's just really simple to number 6 sandwich bags and then put them up in those, and then I can keep track.
about till 8, but if you
Go
finish
on.
early, that's fine. Or go over.
I don't. I was worried about going over.
You're fine.
Okay, so after you have all of it laid out, you're going to start with the top row and you're going to pick up the top corner, okay, and you're going to put it over top. You're going to put it over top of the one right next to it. Okay, so I'm going to pick this one up, put it on top of the other one, and sew on all the way across. So this is going to be my row number 1. And then the second one, you're going to do the same thing. Keeping them all the same direction. Because some of them, it doesn't matter. Like this one, it doesn't matter which way the square goes. But this one does, because it's got, you know, the reindeer and the snow person on there. So you want to make sure that they stay in the right direction. And just one on top of the other. Okay, and you're going to do that with all of your rows. Okay, so I'm going to put row number 1 in the sandwich bag. You can put a little piece of paper in there that has number 1 on it, or I just write on the outside. I just put a big 1 on there. And I apologize for not sending the Ziploc bags. I always forget that most of the time until I actually need them. So I'm grateful that I remember to bring them today. I'm sure there's quilters who have different systems set up to remember how to keep track of their rows. This is just the system that I've found that works for me. So if there's something else that you want to do or you think you would like to try to do, then do that. Do what works for you. Quilting is something I've been an artist for my whole life, I think. And I've made furniture and jewelry and wood carving and all these things. And I remember saying, quilting is the only thing that I've not tried. So, and I always thought it was too hard for me. And then when I started helping my friend out at the fabric store, she showed me a video of someone sewing, and I was like, wow, I could do that. So I did. So I learned how to do it, and I love it. It's one of those things that I can do, and I don't have to think about anything else. I can just stay busy with my hands, and I don't have to worry about or think about nothing else. And I really like that. So I don't want to run off and leave anybody behind. So I'll wait a few more minutes before I go on to the next. Make sure at least everybody has their first row together. And then we'll start sewing on that one. So how's everybody doing? Is anybody else still working on theirs? Yep, you good? Okay. Nevaeh, how are you doing? Was there anything was there anything you missed that I need to catch you up on? Did you see how to thread the needle and tie the knot at the end?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, great. Allie, how are you doing? Ashley, you doing okay?
Allie says, ready and waiting.
Okay, awesome. All right, so then I will go ahead to the next part. So I'm getting my bag with my number 1 on it. Keep this bag. You're going to use this for a while.
On my computer, it says the host has asked you to start your video.
Nevaeh, if you would like to turn on your video, you can, but you don't have to. We would love to see your face. But if you feel comfortable, you can turn on your video.
Okay, so I have my number 1 row. I'm going to get the first square and the second square. I'm going to put the rest over here for now with my bag. I got my bag and the rest of them. My number 1 square, my number 2 square. I'm putting them together. I can see that this one needs to be beside this one, right? And I'm going to flip the second one over on top of the first one. So they're face to face. Okay. So you can't see the print. The print's on the inside. They're face to face. And I'm going to sew on the right hand side. And you're going to sew about 1/4 of an inch, not close to the edge, not too far away from the edge, about 1/4 an inch from the edge. Now, some people have a really hard time making a straight line. That will be me. So one thing that you can do to help with that, there's a pencil in your kit. If you have light fabric, there's a pencil in your kit. You can use the pencil to draw a line across about 1/4 inch from the edge so you can see. And I don't know if you can see, you can barely see the blue line. I can see it. So that way I'll know that I'm not going off track, right? I'm not going too close to the edge or too, I'm not doing a wavy line. So you're going to take your needle that has the knot at the end, and you're going to start on the back side here on the main corner. And you're going to pull it all the way through. Don't pull it too tight or it'll pull through. So you just want to pull it a little bit. Okay. Now I'm right-handed. So I use my left hand to bunch up so that I can get my fingers, my pointer finger on one side, my thumb on the other side, and help guide the needle through. So I'll stand up here so you can see. I'm going to put the tip of the needle through the back to the back, and then I'm going to push it back up to the front. And I'm using my thumbnail on the front, and I'm using my pointer finger on the back to guide that needle. So you're going to go down, and you're going to come back up. And then you're going to keep bunching it up on your needle until there's not enough or not any more room on your needle. So it's bunching up like that on your needle. So you want to, I know that it's a little bit hard in the beginning because this is, especially if you've never sewn before, especially by hand, it feels odd. It feels foreign. It just doesn't feel natural. But with just a little bit of time, after you sew just a couple of squares, it will become natural very easily. So when it does, the ideal is to have your stitches a consistent distance from one another. So that's something that you want to be thinking about as you're sewing, to try to keep each stitch the same distance from the one before. So when I put my needle through here, if it's sticking through there too far, I'll back it up a little bit so that the stitch is the same distance as the one before it. So that's something that comes natural over time. So now I have quite a bit bunched up on here. So you'll see my needle and you see the fabric that's bunched up on there. I'm going to grab the needle with my left hand and the fabric with my right hand, and I'm going to pull the needle through. And you may need to pull on the threads to make sure they don't get tangled up, because that happens quite often, especially when you get really carried away and you're going really fast and you forget to make sure that your thread's not tangled up. Okay, so now you can see my stitches. And they're not perfect, but they're pretty consistent. And it's okay if they are not perfect, because when you open this up, once you get all the way across and you open this up, you're not going to see these stitches. So the only important thing is that your stitches are close enough together that the fabric is going to stay connected.
Nevaeh asked if you could go over just the stitching again.
Okay.
Step by step.
Yep. So the first thing you do is pull your needle up. You're going to put it through the back and pull it all the way out through the front. And then try to do this where you can see. Can it point down just a little bit? Okay, there we go. So the needle's going down that way, just the tip of it. You're not going to push it all the way through. And then you're going to push it up.
Through both layers.
Through both layers, yep. And then down. And then I'm using my thumb to guide this thumb over here to guide where the needle comes out. And then I'm using my pointer finger on the back to guide where it comes out back there. And then I'm just bunching it up on the needle as I stitch through there.
And about how many stitches do you make to fit on the needle?
Normally there's about 10 stitches. And that's when, and it also depends on which needle you chose. Because in your package of needles, there's really tiny short ones and there's really long ones. So depending on what size needle you chose will determine how many stitches you can do at once. So
it'd be easier to start with just a couple stitches.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
You don't have to do as many as Jen does. 10 stitches on a needle, that's tiny.
Well, and it could be smaller, but and it depends on how in a big of a hurry I am. Sometimes when I don't have a whole lot of time to sew, I'll get the biggest needle I can find, because the bigger the needle, the more stitches I can do at once before pulling it through. So yeah, it really depends.
Does that help, Nevaeh? You doing good? I'm sure she'll type and tell us.
Okay.
If she's good.
Make sure when you pull your needle out, I've stitched all the way across. Okay, make sure that you pull your fabric and it's good and straight, because it's easy to pull your thread really tight and it bunches up, and we don't want that to happen. We want it to be good and straight and flat whenever we lay it down. When you get to the end, you've stitched all the way across and you're at the end. What you're going to do is you're going to put the needle through and then back out, and you're going to pull it, but not all the way. So there's going to be a loop, so just a little loop at the end, and then you're going to put your needle through the loop 2 times. Okay, and then pull it a little bit tight, not too tight, and then it makes a knot at the end. And then you can cut it off. And then I always go ahead, after I cut my thread, I just go ahead and make a knot at the end again. That way when I get ready to stitch, it's already done and I don't have to worry about that. And then put it back in my little pumpkin pincushion. So they're sewn together, and when you open it up, you'll see that you don't see any of the stitches. Right on the back, this is called your seam, and on the front, you don't see any of that. So, how's everybody doing with that?
I think Tara is a speedy sewer. I thought I saw Tara already did like a whole row. Tara's got it going
3?
on.
Good.
Perfect.
That's awesome.
Tara, I saw your senior pictures today on Facebook. Congratulations, sweetie. You've worked hard.
So after you get your 2 sewn together, you'll go to your pile row number 1. So I'm going to call this. You're going to get your next one. Make sure they're laying face up. The 2 you've already done are laying face up in the direction they're supposed to be, and then lay your 3rd one beside of it. Okay, so you can look at it. You've got a visual, and you're looking at it, and it looks the way that it's supposed to. Then you just flip it over, just like we did the other one. Make sure that the edges line up, and then you're going to do the same thing. If you need help with that line, just get your pencil, your blue pencil, or a piece of chalk, and draw your line. They make these cool pens now where you can draw and write all over your fabric, and then heat makes it disappear. So that makes it really helpful if you'd like to use something like that. So I'm going to just run through this all over again, the same thing. So I have my needle with my thread, my knot at the end. I'm coming from the back. My fabric is face to face, right? The pattern's on the inside, face to face. I'll pull it all the way through and then stitch right along that line. Just remember, I know in the beginning when you're trying something new that you've never done before, it just feels really odd. But
So mine's a 5x8. Does that matter?
it does, because
Fit on my batting.
it fit on your batting.
Yeah.
So try your backing. The batting is a little bit bigger than the backing. You'll just want to make sure that it lines up. The longest part doesn't go over the edge of the backing. So try that. And if you want to do some math, I am not good at, y'all. Now these squares are 5 inches. Once you sew a 1/4 inch on each side, then that takes a 1/2 inch off. So your squares are going to end up being 4.5 inches. So do the math and add 4.5 inches by 8, and then measure your backing. Because if your rows aren't all together, then you lay it out, then you won't be able to tell exactly. So doing that math. I know in school they tell us we're going to use this math, and I'm like, I ain't going to use that math. And then I go work at a fabric store and I need to know how to do this math. So here I have probably about 10 stitches on this needle. You'll see.
I just got done sewing the first square to the first 2 squares together. How do I cut the string
Okay, first
at the end?
before you cut the string, you got to make a knot. So 1 second, and I'm almost to the end of this row, and I will show you. I need to be more mindful of knots in my thread, because there's a point where you can't get a knot out, and then you'll have to cut it and start all over again on that whatever row you was working on. So just a second, Nevaeh, and I'll get to the end here. Really pay attention to the make sure that your rows are flat and not kind of wavy. Okay, so I'm at the end. I'm going to put the needle through both of them and pull it back up. And I'm going to pull it not all the way through. So you'll see that there's this little loop right here. And then I'm going to put the needle through that loop. Don't pull it tight, and then put it through the loop again. And then pull it tight. And that makes a knot. So after you make that knot, then you can cut it off. Not too close to the knot. You want the little tail sticking up just a little bit. You don't want to cut it too close. So there we have 3 sewn together. And you will keep doing that until you get to the end of your row. When you get to the end of the row, I like to go ahead, if you have an iron, someone recommended before, if you don't have an iron, you have a flat iron, you can use that. It's hot and it's flat, right? When you get to the end of the row, you'll turn it over and find an iron board. I use a towel on my kitchen table sometimes, and you're going to iron the seams in one direction. So you'll see this fabric on mine is white and the one beside of it is red. If I iron the seams over on the side of the white, you'll be able to see through it. And you don't want that. You don't want to be able to see those seams. So you'll want to iron the seams on the side of the darkest square. So I'm going to iron them this direction onto the red. And then the same thing on the other side. It's got some white on it. So I'm going to iron it on the direction of the red. Okay, so they will both be pointing this way, and I would just iron it flat. And that just makes your fabric really good and flat. Okay. So when you get to the end, do the ironing, and then you'll just fold it up, fold it back up, the whole row, and put it back in your Ziploc bag that says number 1. So I have this one I'm working on. I'm doing 2 quilt classes at the moment. So this one was from my other class. And so I have the whole row sewn together. This is what a whole row would look like sewn together. See, it gets much smaller. And then I just fold it up and put it in my Ziploc bag. And you're going to do that for all 6 rows. So we only have 3 weeks to work on our quilts, but they're pretty small, and I know that you can do it, and I know they're going to be beautiful, and I'm so excited to see them. So anytime during this week, whenever you get like some spare time, or you're watching a movie or watching your favorite show on Netflix, while you're doing that, you can be sewing, because after a while, I bet you by the time you get to row 3, you're going to be so natural that you're not going to have to think about it a whole lot. So you can be doing something else, you can be watching something and be sewing at the same time. And then you'll be on row number 5 and you'll be like, wow, I don't even remember like getting here, because you'll be so good at it. I just know that. So if you have that time to work on it during the week, then you'll be good and ready next week whenever we move on to the next step. So after you get all of your rows together, you have all 6 rows or however many you've done. If you found that you want to do a different size and your backing fits and all that, then you'll want to sew your rows together. So I'm not going to really do this because I only have 3 squares together, right? But let's pretend you have all 6 rows or however many rows sewn together. You're going to only work, just like we did with the squares, 2 at a time. So you'll have row 1. Here's row 1. And row 2, you're going to lay them out. Okay? They're laid out. You're looking at it. Yes, this is the way that it's supposed to be. Okay? Move this over a little. And you're going to flip row 2 over onto row 1. And you're going to sew along the bottom. The same thing, half or a quarter inch from the edge. Now, you have those little clips that were with your kits. And here is where you're going to use those. So we have, how many do you have? 3? 3 or 4. You're going to make sure your seams line up perfectly so that your lines will meet whenever these are sewn together. And you're going to use your clip to clip right there where that seam is between the 2. So come over to the next one, and sometimes you may have gotten a little bit off track and one square is just a hair bigger than the one next to it. And that's why this is important. So you're going to make sure that these seams, and you can look inside there, right? And you can see those lines, and you just make sure that those lines are perfectly flush with one another, and use the clip to hold it in place. So you're going to do that all the way, not all the way across. You're going to do the first 3 at a time. Okay? And after you have those clips on there, then you're going to just do the same thing. You're going to sew across. Once you get the first clip, once you get close enough, you can take that clip off and then keep moving across. And then once you get that sewed, then you'll open it up and you'll have 2 rows sewn together. After you had the first 2 rows, then the same as before, you'll get the row 3 out. And you'll work on 1 at a time until all of them are sewn together. And then you'll almost be done with your whole quilt top. So that is all. I think that is all I'm gonna have you guys do for this week, because that's a lot. That's a lot to get done this week. But I know that you can do it. I know that you can do it, and I hope you have fun while doing it. If you have any questions during the week, let Sarah Kate know, and she can tell you how to get up with me. I do not mind at all if I get messages from you, if you send me pictures of your progress, of what you've done, if you've made a mistake and you don't know what to do. I love to communicate. I love to communicate with people and help throughout the week. So I don't want you to go out there into the world for the week and be on your own, right? I will be there.
Nevaeh would like some advice on how to thread her needle.
Okay. So
Nevaeh, I have problems with that too. You and me both.
do you mean getting the needle through the hole?
No, the thread in the needle, I think.
Not the needle through the hole. The thread through the needle hole. Right?
Yes.
Well, let's see. Look in our little kit. Okay, so in your sewing kit, I'm gonna cut my thread that I've got right now. In your sewing kit, you have this little handy tool right here. It's orange and it has like this little metal loop on it. Okay, so you get that out. Get you a piece of thread, arm's length, right? That's about how long I go. Any longer than that, and I'm tangling up all over the place. So arm's length is a pretty good distance. Okay, so you get your needle and these metal things on this tool. I don't know what this tool is called. A needle threader,
I
maybe.
suppose so.
You put it through. Okay, you put it through the needle hole. Okay, and then you put your thread through the middle. Right, that's a much bigger hole to work with, right? I'm not sure if you can see that or not. But you put it through there. Okay? And then you pull the needle. Is that right? That's not right.
You pull the threader through the needle. No, you got it. That's it.
And then how you get this? Oh, okay. Okay, there we
Pull
go.
the threader.
And then you just pull the one side of the thread, right? That's
Yeah.
not right.
You just pull the threader, right?
We'll have Sarah Kate show you how to do this. Well, I got it. So one way or another, I got it through there.
It's okay. So you just push the prongs of the threader through the needle hole, and then put the thread through the prongs, and then you just pull the orange part. And
Okay.
that hooks it in and loops it through the hole.
You don't pull it all the way.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So let's try that again.
You have to leave a good tail.
We put it through the hole, the needle hole. Okay. We put just a little bit through there, not the whole thing, right? Not half of it.
Right.
So I have just a little bit through there. And then pull it through. There we go. Let's see, that makes sense. And then you have the tails meet at the end. Nevaeh, did that help at all? Did that confuse you even more?
Nevaeh's got it figured out. She said thank you.
Good, good. Okay. Now, just keep threading or putting that knot at the end. Keep practicing that. Gets easier. And there may be a quicker way of doing it too. I've seen women do this with their fingers and a knot is there. I can't do that. If you could do that, that's great. I can't do that. Sarah Kay, can you do that?
I can, but it took me a long time.
I can't.
Allie, how are you doing? You doing good? Give us a thumbs up. If you need help, let us know. Delia's sewing right away. Allie says she's doing good.
Good.
I'm curious, how many of you have sewn before? Or let me ask, how many of you, is this your very first time sewing ever? Thelia says that she's sewn before. I know Tara's sewn before. I know Ashley and Kelsey have. Or Ashley says she's never sewn before.
Really?
Oh, Nevaeh has sewn her Papa's shirt before. Did you fix it, Nevaeh? Did you fix a hole in it? That's awesome, Nevaeh.
Yeah.
I would say this is not my first attempt, but I have definitely not really sewn before. You would know that if you knew how long it took me to thread my needle. It was a long time.
I have the same problem. Thanks for doing this, Jen.
Yes, thank you.
One thing I love about quilting is that, you know, the skill of learning how to use a needle and thread. You can go home and you can do like Nevaeh and you can fix Papa's shirt. Hey, Allie.
Did I do this right?
Yeah, it looks great.
That looks awesome, Nevaeh.
Yep. So you just do that same thing over and over and over till you have your whole row. But that looks great. Good job.
Man, y'all are so impressive. Look at Tara. How is Sam doing? Nice.
Good.
I was telling Jen that this was like a date night activity for Tara and Sam. I love it. All right, y'all. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Jen, for doing this with us. I can't wait to see all your amazing artworks.
Thanks, guys. And let me know if you have questions throughout the week. Get up with her and she'll tell you how to get in touch with me and have fun. Okay. And I'll see y'all next week.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.